Welcome to the Advertising Forum. This is episode 2 of our series, Arrival of AI, sponsored by MIQ.
Today we have Keith Roberson, the Chief Innovation Officer at Analect, which is the data, technology, and analytics division for Omnicom. We're going to dig into AI and what that means for the advertising industry. Keith, thanks for joining us today.
Definitely excited to be here.
We're going to have a lot of fun.
It's always fun, and I love having someone who comes from the analytics side, the data side, especially from a company as reputable as Omnicom. So thanks for joining us. My first question to you is, as the Chief Innovation Officer, how is AI showing up in your day-to-day work? How are you guys utilizing it today? And what are you really excited about that you see often?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think as being Chief Innovation Officer, that the job has taken a lot of different forms. I think what's interesting is as part of my day-to-day, I've been using AI for the last 15 years. But I think what's really exciting is it's kind of taken this backstage, running algorithms, building, code repositories in the back end to now it's like very much center stage. And what does that mean? Right. So as a practitioner, it's actually super exciting that it's all about visibility to analytics now and visibility to data science and what that can mean, right? Like clients want data-led strategy, data-led transformation. And I think when we think about AI today from a day-to-day, a lot of what I'm doing now is really unlocking how we can use AI to transform a client's business. And that really starts with, there's tactical use cases of AI where you're using AI to solve repeatable tasks. But also, I think what a lot of us are starting to see now is how you can really use AI to unlock strategic opportunities and really drive orchestration connectivity across teams. So that's what I'm very excited about, how it really just helps elevate our entire workflow.
From an AI tool perspective, what is a current tool that your team utilizes today that you think you absolutely can't live without, other than ChatGPT?
Yeah. So I think what's interesting about my role is it is kind of looking at how we drive kind of end-to-end transformation. And that means, what I'm doing is partnering with our planning and strategy teams, our data operations teams, our activation teams, and even our creative teams as well. I mean, I do kind of skew more toward Omnicom Media Group, but we do a lot of partnership with a lot of our clients around creative. And I think what's interesting is, there's not like necessarily one AI tool that kind of solves your need. And I think that's the purpose of your question too, right? Like what AI tool, not GBT. And I think that's the biggest thing is trying to, one thing I think about Omni and Omnicom is kind of interoperable. Like, I think forever we've been very interoperable in terms of our data, our partnerships, and I see AI as being kind of the same, right? Like we're building a lot of custom AI solutions in partnership with GBT and several other tech companies, but it's also like that interoperability to use the right AI for the right solution.
Can you give me an example of maybe how you're utilizing AI tools as part of your process and how your teams are using it today? Because from my perspective, I know how AI plays a role in my day-to-day, but how does that look on the analytics side?
Yeah. So I'll go like kind of top of mind because this is things we're doing like the last few days, right? I think there's been a big focus on using just our large language model. So a lot of GBT, a lot of Claude, for just maximizing accessibility to information, right? So for a couple of our recent clients, we've been very focused on, again, like maximizing the accessibility to advanced analytics and data signals. And, use Omni, for example. There's a lot of use cases here, but there's tens of thousands of data signals and attributes. It's training, strategists and planners who historically haven't been able to be that technical, and training them on how to use agents, AI agents, to extract that information in a much more seamless way. So that could be specifically around, if you start with a strategic brief, right? How do you use that strategic brief and some descriptive details about an audience to really get clear recommendations and basically build an audience on the back of a brief, right? Rather than having to go in and manually start to build audiences. Other things would be, from, using AI to start to run segmentation, right? If a lot of our clients, they're large clients. They're doing a lot of broad audience targeting. We are trying to push towards personalization. So it's even being able to take a lot of those advanced algorithms and start to bring those insights forward in a much more interpretable fashion, if you will. I think, it's hard too, because like every day I'm kind of working with different teams. It was also, we're doing a lot on like just data quality, right? Like that, maybe it doesn't sound as exciting, but I think AI can do a lot with governance and QA.
It's so important when it comes to data quality. So that it's foundational, because when you're working across many, many global clients, some of the largest brands that all of us are familiar with. So
exactly,
what are some of the biggest conceptions or misconceptions about how AI helps or hinders agencies?
Yeah. So I think there's often, there's a jump to thinking about AI as driving efficiency. It's an obvious one, right? Like AI can drive efficiency. You can take repeatable tasks and build an AI agent that solves that task. I think what's interesting though is, clients, there is a starting point where they say, how can we be more efficient? But then at the same time, the crux of in my perspective, like the crux of the challenge is clients are leaning in, they want to lean in, they want to figure out how to do it in the right way, because if you don't, they see it as they're going to lose their kind of competitive edge, right? If you think about how do you maintain that competitive edge and get that market share, it's not going to be through, hey, replacing what you're doing today and being more efficient in what you're doing today. It's about how do you elevate and amplify what you're doing today. And I think that's not necessarily a misconception, but it's something we're trying to balance, right? It's all right. It's the easy conceptual use case is efficiency to do something faster. But there's this huge opportunity where you can actually use it for more strategic refinement. And that's when we get into like really training our teams on, what you can unlock, the process of training AI. And that to me is kind of, I think I guess it partially is a misconception, but it's maybe more of an educational opportunity around the power of AI from the strategic standpoint, not just, solving these tactical, repeatable tasks.
So I love how before we started, you told ATG and I how you were a teacher before jumping into this industry.
Oh, yeah.
And something that's really relevant is just the foundation of education. And when you are using all these different tools, and obviously as an agency, one of your, outside of being strategic and innovative and being the chief innovation officer, one of the things that you want to do is help save your clients money so their media dollars stretch as much as possible. So with that, can you give us some examples of how AI is helping you save the most time or save costs or money that's making you guys more efficient?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's probably two major areas. I think one is accessibility to information, right? Like it takes out the need to go through several layers of technical resources and capabilities. You can just, we spent a lot of time with, meeting with every partner and really understanding their evolutions and what their capabilities are, especially from kind of an activation standpoint. And it's being able to we're starting to centralize a lot of that information and have it just readily available. Just another use case similar to the audience one, just different context. I think if you think about kind of day-to-day pain points, because I guess that example would probably be a little bit less frequent. Day-to-day pain points, a lot of them are around data quality, right? It's a huge coordination across a lot of teams to deliver granular, accurate data, especially if you're talking about, pulling it from every platform, looking at your plan data, your track data, your actualized data. Every client has custom taxonomy. How do you ensure that's, 100% accurate? There's a bunch of use cases on the back of that. So that, I'd say that's probably one of the bigger time savings. Not necessarily more in terms of providing a governance layer on that, but then starting to kind of generate recommendations on how do you kind of remediate when you have challenges. And, I think with a lot of clients, it's all about daily reporting, which in and of itself might not sound exciting, but I think when you can unlock daily reporting, but have the depth of granularity, then it actually unlocks kind of more strategic conversations, because you can start to dissect that data in a lot, more granular ways that matter.
Let's hit on that for a second, because
perfect. You can go a lot of angles from there.
Yeah, and that's the beauty of talking to a CIO is, how are you balancing experimentation with AI versus the actual business outcomes? Because here you are, you're able to sprinkle all of these universal learnings and the taxonomies that you were talking about a few moments ago. But ultimately, the final goal is to help your clients sell more X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I think that's actually the perfect question coming off the back of taxonomy. So like the starting point with any client, when we kind of think about, what is a taxonomy, is really, it's identifying it's all the different granular components you want to learn about your campaign. But specifically what we try to do is ensure that your taxonomy captures your strategic initiatives, right? So for a lot of our clients, that could be proving the value of first-party data or activating first-party audiences, right? In other cases, it's very specific strategic audiences. Maybe it's looking at a client's first-party audience with a retailer, using their retailer data to start to commingle audiences, right? You could go on and on. Every client has learning agendas that span a mix of different initiatives. But the key is one, you need to have the data quality and the confidence in that data. And that's where the taxonomy comes. And that's the first part, is we can start to, for a lot of our clients, it's showing them how we can use AI to have that level of granularity and confidence on a day-to-day basis. But then that unlocks experimentation, right? When we design experimentation, then it goes back to the earlier not contradiction, but there's working with clients to show efficiency and time savings. But the bigger upside for them to get that competitive advantage is that strategic unlock. And that's where it goes to experimentation now. For strategic unlocks, experimentation, you need to prove the value, and that's how clients are going to continue to invest in it. So it's actually when you have that kind of data quality, you can now get more creative in your experimentation and say, hey, we're actually going to test these different audiences. We're going to test these new innovations, right? A lot of platforms have new bidding algorithms. We have a lot of our own custom bidding algorithms. This is some of the historical AI that we've been working on. We've done a lot with MIQ and Trade Desk, DV360. There's a lot of partners, and it's being able to ensure that, it's not just setting up experimentation within that platform. It's also having that feed into our reporting. And again, this is where it's we do a lot of unified measurement. It's you want your reporting saying the same thing as your marketing mix modeling, saying the same thing as your MTA, saying the same thing as your in-platform experience, right? And I think that's where we're seeing a lot of growth, where you have that foundational kind of connected data layer, which, it feels like maybe we're going a little off topic, but actually AI helps us do that in a systematic, unified way, right? You don't have these big time lags around trying to make sure your data's quality. You're going back in time and doing all your data checks, which a lot of clients get stuck kind of in a spiral, if that makes sense.
That was a really good way to explain it. So ultimately, the crux of how AI is helping your workflow is the automation, the organization, helping to characterize the taxonomies. And because agencies work in multiple platforms, so when you're working with platforms, like you said, like MIQ, the Trade Desk, Google, so on and so forth, 3 awesome large names, it makes your life easier. It makes your team's lives easier. And ultimately, it helps the client. Keith, this has been awesome conversation. We just want to say thank you for joining us on the Arrival of AI series. We wanted to be very specific on who our guest would be for this particular episode. And when you're able to get the Chief Innovation Officer talking about the future, we really appreciate it. And we just want to also say thank you to MIQ, our sponsor for the series. So thank you, Keith. Thank you, MIQ.
Absolutely, man. Thank you for having me. It's a lot of fun.
This is a blast.